We're live. Hi, or welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hi, Grace. Thanks for having me.
To start the show, I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit more. You started your career as a founder. Actually, you started your career as a founder, and then you have worked in the customer relations, and you founded another company, worked in product marketing before started, or before becoming the VP of product at Bright Data. Now you're the CEO. Maybe we could start with like what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of shaping into who you are today.
Actually, I started my career 14 years old as toilet cleaner in a movie theater here in Israel.
Oh my.
Um, I learned a lot there,
Um,
and haven't stopped working since there and then. But yeah, I think that it's always the same thing. I look at everything as a product. I'm a product guy. I build products. And it's just this, whatever you're doing, if you look at it as a product, it's make everything easier. So there's a funnel that helps you to get to whatever KPI you have in mind. The KPI can be building a product and getting users. It can be streaming something on LinkedIn Live, or it can be raising funds. It can be managing 500 employees. It's still there's still a goal somewhere there, and you're still the owner of this goal. And sometimes it's very small, sometimes it's huge. Sometimes the goal is very far into the future, and that's a vision you need to fulfill. But eventually, you just need to build a plan and execute. And most importantly, if you measure it and it's not working, you need to change, just like you're building a product. That kind of helped me to evolve and without really thinking about it. This is just how I run my life.
Totally. I wonder, maybe we could talk about like, from joining the company in 2017, you were the VP of product. Maybe we could talk about the product itself. Like, obviously, you guys are working on data, and why don't we talk about like the first version of the product when you joined versus like what the product looked like now?
Sure. I actually joined 2015 as a product manager when the company was very small and just started doing what we're doing today. So maybe I'll explain what we're doing today, and then I'll go backwards. Today, we are the leading and largest web data collection platform. It's a platform. So we build products, we build technology that allows our customers to collect publicly available data from the internet. There's plenty of that. It's the largest database in history of humanity, and it's just growing every day faster than before. And the data is being used for various purposes. Today, it's very easy to understand that because everyone are using AI. So a model needs data to train itself, and a model needs real-time data in order to actually help you understand the price of a product that you're looking at right now. But traditionally, we started pre-AI, and you can think about the very clear use case that you as the user is like interacting with like a few times a day, which is buying stuff online. Pre-AI, you actually went, and maybe also today, you visited websites, e-commerce platforms, and did your own research, and eventually you decided which product you want to buy from who, for what price, and so on. The websites themselves are doing exactly the same thing and using us to collect this data one from the other, the pricing information, for example. It's a lot more than that. So this is what we're doing as a platform. Going 10, 11 years back when I joined, when the company just started, the mission was the same mission, but we started with just one line of code and with a very unique technology that we developed back then for something else. And we kind of pivoted to Bright Data, as everyone knows Bright Data today, once we started to get inbound demand. And that helped the company to actually grow and be very successful and profitable since the first day of this product that became to be Bright Data, because, again, we built something for a different purpose. A use case came to us as an inbound, and this is how we started going in that direction of being a scraping company and a web data provider.
For sure.
Yeah. In
I
the middle, just 11 years of many things that happened to me and to the company.
For sure. I want to maybe talk about like, by the way, hi Natalie, thank you for commenting. So maybe we could talk about when you guys I guess like when you guys started like scraping the data, how do you find the first user? And obviously to like nowadays like a lot of you guys have like various different type of product. Maybe we could talk about like the first time when you are encountering the user, and also, like, I guess, like, from the data end, like, what are the more important set of data versus, like, I guess, like, obviously every company is, like, collecting all kind of data right now, but, how is that gonna make a company effective to, like, create better function products?
Okay, sure. So the way we started, it started with a very specific use case. That was online travel, talking about 2014, 2015. And we actually created a very popular consumer VPN product that allows just users to view content that is from another country without being blocked. And it was a very powerful product for consumers, for users. And somewhere in mid late 2014, a company, a tech company that is aggregating hotel prices and then selling these prices or insights to the hotel chains, reached out and said, you know what, we're using your very powerful consumer VPN to see the same hotel from different locations. It actually presents different prices for the same room at the same time. This is amazing for our business. This is what they said, but it's not functional for a B2B as a B2B application. We can't just manually work with that VPN. It's not you can't scale. Give us an API for that. And this is how we started. We said, okay, would you pay for it? And they said, of course. And we built that API that automated this process. This is how we started, and this is why or how we actually generated revenues and profit at day one, basically, because we already built the solution. We just had to tweak it. Obviously, that's like ancient history. Today, that's a whole platform with a lot of products. But this is how we started with the travel industry, and then same happened with e-commerce and online retail, and then with online marketing and cybersecurity and financial services. And that leads to your second question, which is how companies are using the data. I think that you can look at it on looking on the inside and the outside. Every company has their own data. They're looking at the inside of their company with different analytics tools. Right? They know which visitors are visiting, how the user journey looks like, what products they're buying, which ads are they looking at, and so on. So this has always been the case, at least online. What we complete is the external world. It's the ability for that business or for that website to see what their others are doing. Okay, so how their competitors are pricing their products, and how which ads are being shown on various websites, and many other use cases. And again, that's all pre-AI. It's continuing and growing. The value of data is just exploding. Even putting AI aside, I'm sure we'll talk enough about that. But even without AI, just everyone needs more data. Business today can't really win for the long term if it only looks on its internal data. Okay. And we complete that picture because everything exists online. It's a mirror of the real world, and it's actually bigger than the real world, because for every website and web page you have multiple variations, because you, Grace, and me, or will just see different content for the same page. We'll see different price for a product, different shipping times, different reviews. You just have an infinite amount of truth for a web page, so there's more content to extract. And we serve 20,000 businesses today, the largest companies in the world from every possible industry you can imagine. They all need that external look on the world just to get better decisions.
For sure. I wanna, I guess, like you mentioned, there everybody's collecting all kind of data, so you use an example of the traveling company. I was wondering for the traveling company, so how are they actually implement the data into their day-to-day work? You mentioned it's like they are trying to track down, like, all the, pricing, and then I was wondering, how do you think about from the pricing perspective, like how do you charge the data? And in terms of like collecting these data nowadays, like there are so many regulations about how you collect the data and then what you collect. How do you guys think about like, making sure that you are collecting the important information, but also not like getting into legal battle with all these like well-known companies?
So two pieces. First is how they're using the data and how we're charging, and then how we're making sure we're doing it the right way. First of all, we need to understand we are all about scale. So you usually, if you're like a single analyst that is just want to understand something about the world, usually you don't need brand data. Okay. In many cases, you will use another product that is using brand data. You will use an AI tool that gets the data through the brand data platform, but eventually just something, an agent you want to communicate with, a chatbot or something like that. So for us, when you come to us, it is when you have a data operation that requires massive amounts of scale of web data all the time. So to your question, those travel websites and e-commerce websites, and it's true for almost every private data customer from every industry, they collect this stream of data, this feed of data all the time, and it's being fed to their machines. And their machines usually will get real-time independent decisions. So on the pricing, they will have other machines unrelated to us that will get the data through our platform and will get real-time decisions to reduce the rate because there is growing competition on that product, for example. And a product can be anything. It can be an iPhone case that you want to buy, and it can be a hotel room or a flight or whatever. So everything that you can purchase. So usually that will be the case, and less of someone who's reading an Excel sheet manually and getting decisions. And the scale is huge. We're talking about many, many, many dozens of billions of web pages that are being scraped through our platform on a daily basis. And from our business perspective, the way that we price it and charge, it's always usage based. The more you consume, the lower you need to pay per unit, just like cloud services and storage and things like that. Now to the second piece of your question, when we started, we realized quite soon in our journey that the value of data is huge and it's only going to increase. And this is why it might get sensitive. And if it will get sensitive, we need to make sure that we are doing things the right way since the early beginning with no shortcuts. But it's sometimes hard to even define what that means because it's new. Again, I'm talking about 10, 11 years ago when it wasn't as popular as it is today, and it wasn't as trivial to understand why someone needs data. Now with AI, everyone understands that. So the main thing we were focused on is define what can be collected and scraped and what's not. And we used our brains and our simple logic, and that proved to be eventually the right decision. And when we draw the line was that if the data that we see on the website is just in the public domain, which means you don't need to do any login, any sign up to pay to pass a paywall or something like that, then it's public and you can collect it. It's just like walking in the street and seeing a product like a dress in the window of a store, and the price is just there, right? You can look at the price from outside of the store. No one will argue you can't do that. The store can decide to remove the price, and then, yeah, you cannot break into the store violently and just to see the price. Same goes with www in the internet. If the website puts the data out there and you can see it using an incognito browser, when you are completely logged out, it's public. Along the years, you talked about not getting into legal battles. We got into legal battles, both with Meta and X. We won both cases because this is how we're doing things. And the courts, these were pretty significant precedents for our industry and to the world in general, because you won't have AI without web scraping. Two different courts in California accepted our position that if it's public, you can collect it, and also what public means. And now it's like the definition that everyone are using, and we're very proud in leading that. And there's a whole other aspect of how to do it right. It's not just what data to collect and what data you shouldn't collect. It's also how to do that without slowing down the website, for example, or burdening the server. And what do you do with personal information on the public domain? The good news is that there are good answers to all of that. And what we realized is that the only thing you need to do is to care about these things. And then the decisions are kind of easy, I would say. Maybe from a tech perspective, it's an effort, but knowing what's right and wrong is actually easier than people think.
For sure. I wonder, so like since like you guys are serving a lot of like Fortune 500 clients from different industries, from travel to other industries, like maybe we could talk about like how do you kind of like package them into different format for these like to serve different type of clients. And since you guys have 300 million um ARR right now, so maybe we could talk about like how do you kind of like think about um from selling to one individual group of people to like scaling it up to serve multiple different type of like clients.
So we were always really good in building a platform
Mhm.
that is self-serve. It doesn't mean we don't have a very skilled, talented go-to-market organization. We do have, including the marketing, the sales, the solution consulting, the technical assistance, the support team. But still, you can be a customer and never talk to us, and that's key because most users in most companies don't want to talk with their vendors, even though you see I'm nice. But still, it should be easy just to get the data. Okay, and this is the mindset at the beginning. We weren't always very good in that. I think today we are very good in that, but the mindset is always just get the data. And the way to do that is to be focused only on that. We're very good at staying focused. We have a lot of opportunity to go out of the data industry to places that are completing the data industry, and we can actually do a good job there. But if we're not 100% sure that won't take off the focus from our core business, then we won't do it. We will stay focused, and we'll say no to a lot of opportunities. And I think it proved itself along the years. So that's one. The second thing is that we are also pretty good in every year or so to go up the value chain of our product stack and offer more and more products that allows us to serve more types of customers. So if a decade ago, when we just started, and as I said, with like a single line of code, that API that sits on top of the VPN, you actually needed to be a very skilled engineer to know what to do with that. But every year or so, on top of that layer, we added more and more layers that are taking more responsibility on the data collection operation. we, Bright Data, are doing more than our customer. So we understand how to approach the website the right way and how to unlock the website. It's a challenge to get access to the website, even though the data is public. Many websites will try to prevent you from seeing it if they will think that you are not coming in order to purchase something. And on top of that, um, for example, run a browser within the website in order to navigate the website. Think about it as a user. To get to a product price on an e-commerce platform, you need to go through one hell of a journey. You need to search for the product and to scroll down the results, to click on a few, to choose within the product page. You need to choose the specific variation, like the color of the iPhone case, and to enter your zip code, and only then you will see the shipping time and the price. That's a lot of work. So we introduced a product layer that solves that. And on top of that, we introduced a data set marketplace that you can just come in, and as long as you know how to read an Excel sheet, you can become a customer and buy a data set. And many, many, many more of these layers and products and features going up and to sideways. So it's maintaining this focus of just get me the data mindset, but also always simplifying that mindset. Okay, you can also do that. I'll be happy to pay a premium because you're doing that instead of me, the customer. And you also already collected the data, curated it, cleaned it, and structured it into a data set. Perfect. I'll just buy it instead trying to scrape it myself. So this mindset of just get me the data and just make it easier every year, that's the focus of the company. And we're kind of, I would even say, obsessed with that. Not an easy task. And I think that this is a major reason for our success.
For sure. Speaking of packaging the data into like, you know, clean the data and then packaging the data into like very useful format instead of like just selling um the data that you collected. Like maybe we could talk about like the process of like how does a company typically process the data and what type of data, like so when you kind of like scrape the data and then how do you whether it's like clean or like to process the data before they're customer ready?
The key is to understand and realize that we, as the data provider, shouldn't have an opinion about all of these things. Because what we are not an e-commerce website. We are not a bank. We're not a hedge fund. We're not an AI foundational model company. I talked about our focus. That's the only thing that we're doing. We're the best, largest scraping company in the world, putting aside Google, they're bigger. So every time that we introduce, for example, as you mentioned, a clean, ready-to-use data set, covering a specific use case or a specific website, it's only because we understand our customer needs really, really well. It never because someone at Bright Data thought that it's going to be a good idea. Maybe someone has a theory, but the customer decides. Only if we see demand, and then usually we will move very fast and iterate multiple times on that product or that data set or that API until we nail it, because we are starting with that thesis after we talk to a customer, then we introduce it to the world, we're getting feedback, we're fixing. So almost never we come up with a good product. Almost always it's an initial product, some sort of an MVP that is somewhere between working but still embarrassing. And if it won't survive the first iteration, we'll just kill it, and it won't be a product. It won't be a feature. Because our ideas in many cases are just wrong because we are not our customers. So we need to listen to them. And also we just see a lot of data, and we are so big and our scale is so massive that if you know how to look at our data and logs, you can actually understand from that what's your next bet? Everyone are going to that. This segment of customer that are doing, financial investments are all going to that segment of websites. Okay, if you know how to see that without really knowing why, because again, we're not our customers, but you can smell and sense that there's something there, something is happening. Because the scale is so big, in many cases, we can sense that something is happening before the broader market realized that. COVID was the best example. Because we're serving AI now is by far our biggest use case, but COVID was pre-AI. So the number one use case was e-commerce. The second use case was largest use case was travel, and then 30 other industries. But these were number one, number two. We saw perfect correlation, almost at the same day, of all of the travel just stops completely, while all of the e-commerce explodes. Almost in perfect correlation. Now it makes sense because we've all been through COVID, so we couldn't go out of home and for sure not travel, and we just ordered everything online. Right? We saw it, I think, first, just because of we're in this junction that everyone is going through us.
I wonder, so speaking of there's two things I was taking notes on. One is you mentioned that you guys would kill a feature if it was not working. I guess how long do you typically try to create something that that is testing if it's useful or not? And the other part is how do you talk to your customers? What does a journey look like to talk to what kind of customers? Since you mentioned a lot of people would just use the self-served function from the website. How do you guys kind of initiate the conversation, and what kind of question would you typically ask to the customer to get the answer that you want?
So on the product side, we release an average of 50 versions every day.
Every day?
Every day to our products. It can be something super small that is no one will even notice, or it can be an MVP for something innovative that the world hasn't seen. 50 versions a day, every single day. And this is why we hardly never kill products, but always kill products. I know it doesn't make sense. I'll explain. So because we're moving so fast and developing so fast in such small iterations, the product that you started this morning will already take 3 different pivots by night.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't write PRDs. We don't have product documents. We have a theory, but we don't put too much weight on this theory because tomorrow we'll already have something else. So it's all about releasing fast, measuring, so that feedback loop, and then releasing again. After you measured, you go to a conclusion. No one clicked on the button, or many people clicked on the button. That's two branches. If no one clicked on the button, try something else now, immediately, release something. And if someone clicked on the button, maintain the same direction and build the next layer on top of that. So sometimes we do kill a product that we iterated on it and it started to show traction, but then it just wasn't big enough. And then someone need to maintain it, and it holds resources and it has a cost. We'll kill it. That's fine. But it hardly ever happens thanks to our approach of, who knows? We have no idea what we're developing right now. We have a theory, we're starting, and we're reacting so fast that you don't really need to think. You just need to analyze and move fast. And the way we're getting feedback is, first of all, the same thing, like measuring everything. Sometimes it's not a discussion with the customer. It's just, the numbers tells you what the customers are thinking, but also talking to our customers a lot. And this is why, when we started half an hour ago, I said that everything is a product in my view. I'm still talking to multiple customers every day. All of our product managers are doing that every day. For sure, the sales that are doing that and sharing feedback, but the people that are building the products are talking to customers every single day. The engineers that are writing the code are often engaged with the customers, or we bring them in and we listen. And sometimes it's not listening to what the customer is saying, it's actually asking the right question. And I'll just give you an example. So everyone who signs up to Bright Data, and you and the listeners can test it right now, will get an automated email from me. But it looks personal, and we experimented a lot to get to the perfect email that people are actually reacting to, and it gets the response is getting to my personal inbox, and I'm answering to every single one of these emails that people are not everyone respond to, but many are every day, and it forces me to engage with new customers every day. Some days it will be just one, some days it will be 15, and that you just know what's going on. You know what's going on in the world and why they came to you, and you know what's not working in your product, and you know what sucks in the onboarding experience, and you know what your competitors are doing because they're just telling you. And that's if I'm doing that, that's also what we expect anyone else in Bright Data to do, obviously from the product team, but also everyone else. And I think it's working really well for us. We just flooded with feedback constantly, all the time. You do need to understand how to, from what we ignore and what to surface and fix, but we kind of figured out the mechanism to get feedback, I think.
I guess like after like you, for example, like since like if I sign up, it's probably very different than like if L'Oreal sign up like to ask for like the data, I guess like based off like the quantity or like not quantity, but like the how I guess like the data revenue for you guys. How do you kind of prioritize like which email do you prioritize on? And then the other part is like when you guys were when the customer discovery product, or are they primarily the engineering team, like one of the engineering manager or like marketing manager, or would it be like the CEO themselves to like reach out that you would actually get a reply from someone like you?
So first of all, everyone are getting an email from me. Doesn't matter if it's your personal Gmail account or you're representing 100,000 people company. I learned the most from that single person with a Gmail account that is just starting to build a startup company.
Mhm.
I learned the most because it's so urgent and important for him or her to start getting the data now immediately, because they're building something that usually they will share the best feedback. When someone joins the company, signs up, or it's starting to engage somehow with Bright Data, we have the traditional ways, I believe, to segment the customer, and we are big enough today to have different teams that knows how to serve an enterprise, for example. It's different. You need to have different materials to be sent to the legal and compliance teams, for example. You usually will work with it will be a multi-thread discussion with multiple people in the organization. And we have teams that knows how to work with those single founders that needs to run fast and highly technical and just needs to understand how to connect the API to their product. So, and everything in between. Sometimes, and we have people that are also responsible to direct. If something isn't clear, then they'll go on a call or ask a few questions, or just look on signs and indicators from that customer that they never even talked to us, and we'll pass it to the right team to handle. Usually from the customer side, it will be, it depends on the company's size. You asked about who's going to engage with us. Again, if it's a small company, a startup company that just raised funds from a VC based in the Bay Area, it will be like 3 founders. One of them will be the person who talks to us. If it's a large organization, the data is critical infrastructure for their operation. It will be a dedicated data team that is highly technical, usually a large team that is doing this data sourcing and building it into a pipeline that will feed their machines. So highly technical. And small, medium businesses, usually it will be the engineer or software developer that got the task to get the data. Usually this is what we'll see. Now that we are a bigger platform with the ability just to walk in and buy a data set, for example, it can also be the analyst that never wrote a line of code. It can be the marketing guy that just wants to get a data set with a list of relevant companies to target in their marketing efforts, for example. And they don't need us at all. I mean, they don't need any technical help at all. So it's everything. But I would say 80% are usually the more technical data-related people in the organization.
I wonder, so like, do you feel like you guys are, do you feel like the larger enterprise typically have larger enterprise value to you guys, or do you feel like the 3 people Bay Area startup may actually spend more money on your platform?
Interesting question. AI just changed everything. So before AI, the bigger organizations usually paid a lot more. Then the ACV was much higher. It's actually also true for AI. So those with the deeper pockets can invest more in, they have basically 3 things they need to invest as much as they can. One is getting the best talent to write the algorithm of the LLM, getting as much compute as they can, and the third piece, that's getting as much data as they can to train the model, and real-time data to add real-time context and information to the model. So usually they also raise quite a lot of money, and they can invest that back in these 3 things. So they will be the biggest usually, but we see a lot of AI companies that it's still those founding team that raised quite a lot of money as a seed round or A round, and they don't have any product without data. So it's a necessity for them to invest a lot of capital in acquiring a lot of data. We didn't really see that on like e-commerce newcomers 5 years ago, but we do see that on small AI companies that can move very fast, raised a lot of money, and actually growing very fast themselves as well.
I guess like when you are reaching to the customer right now, I guess like there's like the inbound part, which they will get an email from you. And what does the go-to-market look like at this stage of your company? Do you guys typically, I guess like who is your ICP? Would you, since you mentioned like it's an interesting question now because a lot of the startups may actually be a bigger spender than like these larger companies. I guess like when you are positioning your company, also like there's a lot of like more competitive companies coming up since I feel like the data space has been extremely popular. What's your thought on building the unfair advantage slash the moat for the company right now?
It's always have been, and it will keep being the technology and the product. When it's as a customer or prospect before becoming a customer, it won't cost you to test a few solutions, right? It's true not just for us. If you're let's say you have an amazing idea to build an AI company that does KYC. Okay, you will check a few LLMs to power your products. You will try an open source, open weight, Chinese model, as well as closed source, closed weight, frontier model from the States, and 4 or 5 of these, and you'll test it. And the same you will do with the data vendor. You will test, and the same you will do with the checkout vendor, that for customers to actually buy the product from you, your SaaS product. You will check Stripe and then a few others. This is true. That's the reality. So from a brand perspective, you will try Bright Data always. We're the best known. We're the biggest. We practically invented most of today's popular scraping technologies. So why not? And you'll get to us, and we're probably one of the only ones you heard. But usually we'll also try a few others. So for us, the most important thing is to be the most competitive first and foremost on performance, because usually the data infrastructure will be critical infrastructure. If you don't have the data now, the product just won't operate. So that's always most important. And then best service, best support, not always best pricing, because these things comes with a price, and we do believe that we are the premium product. But we also have solutions for that, and that's also something that can be discussed. So yeah, maybe it might be an annoying answer because it's not really a go-to-market strategy, but it is. It's hard. We're working very hard to make sure that this is the reality, that we just have the best product, the best technology. Other than that, we do have an ICP, and we have a large go-to-market organization, a global one that's important to mention. So we have people on the ground in every relevant location that there's enough business in. And people, it doesn't only mean salespeople. It also means support and technical assistance and account managers, everything that will allow our customers to be successful. So we're doing a lot of that. We're almost 500 people today.
I wonder, since I feel like nowadays you guys, seems like from the online information, you guys have the highest success rate on the blocked sites. How do you typically go through a blocked site?
So first, let's define what it means. Because I said earlier, we're only collecting data that is public. How can public data can be blocked? It just doesn't make sense, right? It's blocked, it's not public. So that's our reality, actually. And I'll start with an analogy. Let's say that you own a grocery store, okay, like a physical one.
Mm-hmm.
And at the edge of the street, you have another grocery store and your competitors. You can go to that grocery store every day and check the prices of the tomatoes to understand where you're at, right? And maybe they're cheaper, so you need to reduce the rates. And that's good. That's transparency that creates competition, and it's always good for the consumers. That competitor can block you from entering his physical store. Like physically, he can. That's illegal. Like you call the police, and I have rights to go into a store like everyone else. In the internet, it doesn't work this way. You have the public information, the same price of a product, for example, and those websites will apply technical blocks. In the physical world, it can be like a security guard that will physically try to block you out, keep you out. On the website, it will be some sort of technical mechanism that will try to understand if this is a real user that is coming in to spend money on something usually, and spending money can also be like watching ads, for example, or if that's an automated visitor bot that is coming in usually because a competitor wants to understand what's going on. And this is what they're trying to block. Now, important to say, almost, I would say most of my customers will use Bright Data to collect data from the internet, many cases from their competitors, and will also try to block Bright Data from being able to scrape their own website. So it's all public information, but the reality is that, and that's not new, this is from the early days of the internet, the website owners are trying to keep that public information only for themselves. This is what we're here to solve. So getting back to your more technical question, the blocking or unlocking, so the unlocking methods, that's the Bright Data mode. This is our secret sauce. This is where our research team invests all their time, and all of our R&D team invests their time, is to understand how to better mimic a real user that is visiting the website. So these blocking mechanisms will identify us as humans.
Mm.
That was clear. It's a bit complicated.
Um, that's such an interesting observation, and I wonder, um, what is like the hardest technical problem? You mentioned about like, being able to, the user who are buying the data from you is also the people who are blocking you from doing research on their own sites. And I guess like there is the IP reputation, browser fingerprints, caches, JS rendering. What would you say is like the biggest like technical problem, that hardest technical problem to solve?
It's the pace, actually. So because the value of data is increasing so much, especially thanks to the AI revolution, then the pace that everything is changing, that's the biggest challenge. You need to take all of these things that we built for a decade and put them to work together in a perfectly. It can be less than perfect because then you will be identified and blocked. And that's also what helped us to grow so fast as a company, because the pace. So because it's becoming harder and harder, faster and faster to mimic this real user, we are winning in the industry because we are moving as fast. I talked about, I just mentioned some are, a part of our DNA of how fast we move, how many versions we release every day, how we iterate so fast, that feedback loop. This helps us to catch up with that pace of the blockers and to overcome that over and over again, and also by doing that increase the gap from our own competition. So it's everything together and the speed that everything is moving. I would say, just mimicking this real user and the user journey within the website in a perfect manner.
Since like I feel like another I like what you said about like pacing. Maybe we could talk about like since I feel like we're in the AI agent era, how is like I guess like how is the demand kind of like change from training data to like real-time retrievals versus like eval or like monitoring?
So it all started just like 3 years ago. Now we can't imagine a world without using our favorite chatbot. But it all started just 3 years ago, and I'm sure you remember that back then the models weren't up to date. Right? It was magic in one hand, but on the other hand, if the question was on information that was created after December 2023, it wasn't there. It became useless. it was magical and useless at the same time. And now that's not the case, right? This is because a lot of data for training was ingested into the newer model versions. And this isn't stopping. It's growing super fast. And also, the model builders are going into multimodal. So it's not just a chatbot anymore, it's a video model, an audio model, models that you can fine tune for your own demands. You need data for all of these things. So, data for training is huge. It's a lot of our growth, and it keeps on growing. I think that the more interesting part has started this year, and we're going to see a lot more of it next year, and then forever into the future. That's the what we call data for inference. That's data that is being ingested into the model in real time while the user is waiting for the output of the chatbot. And that allows you to actually not just ask the model about a milk you want to buy, just a milk to eat your cereals in the morning. The model can tell you everything. It's very intelligent. It can tell you everything about the ingredients and in the milk, and about the milk company, and about their reputation, if it's a good milk, But it can't really tell you the price. This is starting to change now, and that's the data for inference. It's actually visiting the nearby store, virtual store, if you want to order something, right? That is servicing your address with the real-time price and complete the transaction. And it's true for everything, not just. I was in reInvent a few weeks ago. You have the sphere, right? The model today is very intelligent to explain exactly how the sphere was built and how much metal was used to build the sphere. But if you wanted to buy tickets for tonight's show in the sphere, it's not always working. That's data for inference that we're starting to serve a lot right now. It's growing exponentially. And I think that this is going to be much bigger eventually than data for training, because it's never going to stop, because the world keeps on changing. The price of the milk keeps on changing. The show and the sphere keeps on changing. The news keeps on changing. Everything keeps on changing. So it's not about training. It's about being relevant. And this is something that we invest a lot from a product side, because you need to be very fast. There's a user that is waiting on the other side, and you need to be very fast in large scale without being blocked. This is where we invest a lot of our resources right now. And I think it's going to be a lot of what we're going to see in 2026 as users of these AI tools, that it's just going to be a much better experience, because you don't need to learn something and then go to the website to learn what you don't know yet, which is, again, the price, whatever it is. It's going to work much better.
I wonder, so like, does agents increasing the scraping volume, or does it like reduce it via archives or caching?
It's increasing, and it's only the start. So everyone are building different products that are using agents now. It's not fully adopted yet by businesses and people. So it's just the early days. I think that two things will happen eventually. An agent, like just one agent, might consume less data, because it will communicate with a different agent, and this can be done very efficiently. But just the sheer size of the amount of agents will be huge. Now, we're talking about a few billion people that has internet connectivity. That's it. It's not going to grow to like 20 billion. It's going to be 5 billion, or maybe in a few years, 6 billion. But agents, you're going to have like hundreds of billions, and it can grow very, very fast. So overall, it is growing, but it's just the starting point, and it's going to be much, much bigger.
What's your thought on synthetic data versus like web data? Do you feel like it can actually substitute or like it's just like a complementary situation?
It can't replace real data because it's not real data. Now, for years, I heard about synthetic data, and people came to talk to me about that and said, I think it has value, but don't get confused. It doesn't replace real data. How can synthetic data replace the price of that milk,
Mhm,
right? So, for some use cases, it might make sense. I'm not an expert enough in that, so I'm not even sure what these use cases are. I think it will come um, for maybe for areas that are very mature already in the AI world. So, but I'm not really. I'm seeing a lot of companies trying.
mhm,
I don't fully get it, and I don't see how it can replace the real world. What we're doing now, this conversation, is streamed live, and then it's going to be in the internet forever,
mhm,
right? You can't synthesize that. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be really grace and or. And so, and you want to, hear what I have to say, or you want to train a model based on what I have to say, not based on what you think I will say. Um, Maybe for some use cases it will be good enough. I'm not sure what they are, but I don't see it replace real data.
mm. I wonder in terms of like, what is like, what's your vision for Bright Data? Like, what is the next product category? So, like, there's like, data set marketplace, answer layer, or agent tools, or vertical analytics. Like, what are something that you're seeing you guys are betting on?
So you'll see a few interesting announcements soon. It's always, as I said, focused on just get me the data mindset, but there's always where to go up again in the value chain. So we're doing a lot there, and especially for AI. I'm gonna announce something very soon, so it's going to be related to data, but
Mhm.
much higher quality for AI models, and also and a bunch of these things. So under that umbrella of a mindset of just get me the data, or maybe just get me the data that I need. That's the new part. Other than that, we are feeling confident enough now to also go a bit sideways and add another focus area. As we have enough resources and talent to be focused on more than one thing now. So we're going to introduce something that is going outside of the pure data scope in Q1 2026, which I'm not going to reveal right now, but it's going to be very interesting. Again, I think that just our methodology of talking to our customers, understanding the needs, and then realizing where we, Bright Data, can be the best in the world in doing something. This is what we're doing really well. If I can be the best in that, I prefer not to do that at all, but we do have unique position and expertise and knowledge to be the best in what we choose to do. So we have a few things that we're working on.
Mm, love that. I want to be mindful of time. Maybe we'll wrap with a quick fire round. Uh,
Sure.
what's your favorite book?
Um, I just finished again The Alchemist, so it's a classic. I just it's the last. It's good.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
What's that?
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Is it a cliche to say you?
Oh, okay. Um, who made the biggest impact in your career?
um, it was one of my previous commanders in the military that he's no longer with us, but he taught me how to ask why on stupid things. And that's something that I keep on doing. I'm just asking why on stupid things that I just don't understand. And usually you learn a lot from that.
Where can we find you outside of work?
Surfing.
Oh, well, or thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a fun conversation.
It was a lot of fun for me as well. Thanks for inviting me.
Let me quickly answer